Welcome to my second and last forecast update for the 2016 American election. Apologies for not posting after my first video. Every time I was about to post an update, things reverted back to a tenuous Clinton lead, and I felt that I was probably going to be repeating myself. For those of you who haven't seen my first video, take a look at it, but I'm from London and I have been fascinated by American politics ever since the 2000 recount between Bush and Gore. And while I have some very strong opinions about this election, this video is intended to be a very independent, analytical view of how things might turn out on election day tomorrow. It is not intended by any means to support one candidate over the other. I personally try to avoid political punditry as well, because I find that it often sensationalizes and overstates things. For example, recently we saw a Time magazine cover issued which showed a version of Donald Trump on the front of it with the words "total meltdown." And while that might have been true at the time, I considered it to be a little bit early to count him out. And as I mentioned in my previous video, campaign events often don't have lasting impacts on the polls. Now, I'm going to talk about three things. First of all, Clinton appears to be ahead in most of the polls, but websites such as 538 make it quite clear that the final election results are far from certain, primarily because there are such a large number of undecided people for this late in the campaign. And there are still around about 10% of people who have not yet decided who they're going to vote for. Conventional wisdom that says people tend to stick with the status quo, but in this case we don't have a status quo. And I've also witnessed in a number of different cases recently, such as Brexit, where the undecided voters end up going against what the conventional wisdom says. Secondly, Clinton currently averages around about 3 percentage points ahead of Trump in the national polls. Now, every poll has a margin of error, which means that Clinton could be losing the race, but she could also be winning the race by perhaps even as large as 6 percentage points. Again, 538 has pointed out that this would be consistent with historic polling errors. The average over the last 40 years or so is around about 2 percentage points, but it has been as large as around 6 or 7 percentage points. So it would not be massively unusual for a 3 percentage point error, for instance. And what I want to do now is go through scenarios which outlines how well Clinton or Trump would fare if the polls were between 4 percentage points more in Clinton's favour and 4 percentage points more in Trump's favour. So first of all, let's just look at the states which we think are pretty much slam dunks for both Trump and Clinton, barring anything wildly unexpected. Clinton's on 185 and Trump is on 116. I've included Texas and Alaska in the toss-up states, not because I think they're toss-ups, but because they have been at some point during the election campaign relatively close. But we could probably say they're very likely to go towards Trump, but let's see what happens. So, if we took all the average polls at face value and assumed that they're all going to be 100% correct, Clinton currently looks likely to receive 322 electoral votes and Trump likely to get 216. If we were to give a 1 to 2 percentage point boost to Clinton's numbers, she would pick up one additional electoral vote, and that would be in the additional district in Maine, which splits its vote. If we were then to add an additional percentage point to her and give her a 3 percentage point enhancement over her current polls, she would probably go up to around about 352 electoral votes, picking up both Ohio and Arizona. And then if we were to give her an additional percentage point over her lead, she was boosting her lead by about 4 percentage points to what's currently in the polls. We would expect to see her at around about 359 electoral votes. But let's go the other way. If we were to add 1 to 2 percentage points towards Trump, so basically a Clinton lead of around about 1 to 2 percentage points, we would probably expect her to lose North Carolina, Florida and Nevada, and Trump win those. What that means is that Trump would be on 266 electoral votes and Clinton on a very narrow victory path of 272. If we were then to add 1 percentage point additional and say that Trump would basically outperform the current polls by around about 4 percentage points, i.e. a 1 percentage point national vote margin to Trump, he would probably pick up additional states including Colorado and Pennsylvania as the minimum number needed, and 99 electoral votes. So what we can see is that Clinton is currently more likely to win, but it's very, very narrow. And all it takes is a very small polling error in Trump's favour for Clinton to lose this election. So tomorrow night is going to be a very tense night for both sides. I personally will be staying up all night in London to watch the results come in. Fingers crossed and good luck.